What's up, everyone? Today we're going to look at the status column in a bit more detail. We're going to look at the settings, what you can configure with the status column, but mainly how you can use it in the automation. And we're actually going to build everything out automation by automation and look at how the status column can change other columns, how other columns can change the status column, and how we can use it as a condition for different actions. All right, let's get right into it. So the first thing is I won't spend time on the settings of the status column because it's pretty standard across most column types. So the first thing we're going to look at is the actual labels themselves. If you click on a label, you get obviously the options that come up, which you can click on. You can also edit the labels, and you can do two things in here. You can change the color of the labels, and then you can reorder the labels by clicking the little 6 dots on the left-hand side. You can click and drag that up and down. So that's pretty standard stuff. You can have up to 41 labels in your status column, which should be plenty for most functions, but just note that if you ever convert other columns into statuses. The status column in Monday is probably one of their most, if not the more important column type that they have. And so you can use it for a lot of functionalities. If you go into the automate menu in the top right corner, if you just search up status, you can just see how many there are. It's just loads of pre-built automations that are status based. For our purposes today, we're just going to create custom automations. So first what we're going to look at, when we change a status, we want to change another status. So simply we're going to go into our automate menu, top right corner of the screen, then we're going to click create custom automation. Then for our trigger, we're going to select status change. In the status dropdown, we're going to select the status column from the main item, and then we're going to change it to, let's say when it's done. And we're going to go down this journey of when we're done, we want it to be reviewed, and then we want it to move into another board. So in this case, we want to change another status to ready for review. So as the action, we're going to go change status. Then under the status dropdown, we're going to select the review status this time. And then the next option, we're going to select awaiting review. We're going to create that, see what that does. Once you change the status over to done, this will change the review status to awaiting review. There we go, change it to awaiting review. Pretty straightforward. Next thing we can use the status for is to change other types of columns. So we could set it so that when we change it to in progress, it actually starts our time tracker here. While we're at it, another automation I like to add in here, anytime we change a status, it stamps the item with a date and time. So I know when the last time it was when I actually made some changes to this item. So to do that, we are going to just bring this back to 0. We're going to go to the automate menu in the top right corner, and we're going to create a new automation. And so we're going to choose again as a trigger our status. Under the status dropdown, we're going to choose a status column, and we're going to change it to in progress this time. And as the action, you can actually search up time tracking, and you have start and stop. In this case, we want to start the time tracking. And then it's going to ask you to choose the column, create automation. We're going to create another one that when you click done, it actually stops the time tracking. So to do that, we're going to click the 3 dots to the right of the first one that we just made. We're going to go duplicate automation. And this time we're going to choose done from the drop down. For the second one, we're going to bin the start time tracking. And then we're going to use stop time tracking. So you can search either time tracking, or if you just put in stop, they'll give you that option. Choose the same column, create automation. As mentioned, we're going to add one for the date stamp. So we're going to go add new automation. From the trigger, we're going to select status changes. Under status, we're going to choose our status column again, but this time we're going to select anything. Whenever the status changes, we want to stamp the item with a date and time. So then we're going to go for the action, we're going to click on that, and we're going to search set. It's going to set the date And we're going to put last updated. I'm going to drop down to today. What all that does now, if we press in progress, it will start our time tracker and it will stamp our date. Just a second here. There we go. And then now we still have our very first automation as well. So as soon as I click done on here, it's going to do a few things. It stops the time tracker. It would update the date as well. And then now we can see that our first status has changed to awaiting review. So just with one status change, we affected all of that. Now, conversely, you can set it so that when you change a different column or when a different column changes, it changes the status column itself. So in this case, we're going to pretend that somebody has reviewed the work and clicked off the checkbox. When we do that, we want it to change the review status to passed. To do that, we're going to go into our automate menu, top right corner again. We're going to click the add new automation. This time, we're going to choose column changes from the available options. The column that we want to be monitoring for the change is going to be the reviewed checkbox. We are going to ask it to change a status as the action. And from the status, we're going to choose the review status column to passed. And that's it. Close the little window. So if we click the little checkbox, now that it's been reviewed, that should change our review status to passed. Now, the nice thing about statuses as well is it's one of the only columns that can actually have some communication between the sub items and the items. Monday handles sub items as entirely different boards, which can become a little tricky to get automation working. But what we can do is if we open up sub items through the little drop down to the left of the name, if you're using the latest view. If not, you'll have a sub item column. We're going to create task 1, task 2, and task 3 here. If you want to change the status of the main item, but only when all the statuses of the sub items have the same status, you can set that up in the automation. For example, in here, we only want the status of our main item to be done once all our tasks are complete. To do that, we're going to click automate in the top right. And the trick with this one is that you can't create it under a custom automation. For this, you have to go to the automation center at the top of the screen. So what you can do is in the search bar, type in sub item, which will pull up all the automations with sub item support. And under featured, the second one from the left is the one you want, which just says that when all sub items of an item have the status. So for this, we're going to choose the sub item status column of done. Then change the item status. So the item would be the main item. And we're going to choose its status to, and we're going to select done here. So we're going to add that to board on all your sub items. Once you've finished all your tasks, it will then change your status of your main item to done. There we go. Now you don't have to do all of the sub item status. You can also do that when one status changes, it changes the main item status as well. Today we're going to go to the automate menu. This one you can actually create as a custom automation. So we're going to click the add new automation button. Then we're going to click status change for the trigger. So we're going to go status, and we're going to scroll down to the sub item column status to working on it. And then on the action, we're going to go to change status, and we're going to choose the status of the main item. And we're going to choose in progress. What this does now is when the status of a sub item changes to working on it, it will change the status of our main item to in progress. There we go. And of course, since this changes to in progress, it starts our timer over here on the right-hand side. And if we select done down here, it's going to change done in the status of the main item, which is then going to stop our time tracking. Finally, for this status column video, I just want to talk about using it as a condition. For that, we're going to actually make a move to another board. So we're going to send something from our London office to our New York office. So here we're going to just choose New York as the location. And this is what's kind of nice about statuses. You can kind of use them for a lot of different things, not just the actual status of the item. But we're going to go ahead and bring this back to sort of neutral. So now we want it so that when everything is done, we want the item to get moved to this other board so the next team can do their own work. Still have all the other automations we set up in the video. So first thing you want to do is go to the automate function in the top right corner. We're going to click add new automation. So under the status, we're going to select the status column from the main item. Then we're going to click done for the drop down. Then we're going to put the first condition by pressing the plus sign to the right of the trigger. We're going to put status. We're going to put review status is also passed. And another condition, which we're going to put status again. And this time we're going to put location is New York. Only then do we want to move to the other boards. So we're going to find our board in here, New York, and then item. Make sure it's got everything in there. Once you do that, you can click the create automation button. Now I said we need to do 2 of these, and that's because you have 2 validating factors. And so you want to be that either if it's passed and it's already done, then it goes, or if it's done and it's passed reviewed, then you want it to go. So in this case, for the first line, we're going to change the status drop down to review status is passed. And on the first condition, we're going to switch that over to the main status and select done. That means that once both validation points have been checked and the location is New York, it gets moved over to the New York board. All right, so let's do this from the beginning now. So we have our item, we know where it's going. Ultimately, we start working on our tasks. So we're gonna go working on it, which will change our status over here. There we go, which will then turn on our time tracking. And then we happen to finish our tasks. So we're gonna select done as we finish our tasks. And finally, we're all done. So that will change our status to done, which will then stop our time tracking. It will also change the review status to awaiting review. It will update the date. And finally, the reviewer comes and they've reviewed it and they say it's passed. So they'll just check it off. And that will change our review status to passed. And since they both are validated and it's New York, everything is going to get moved over to our New York board. There you go. That's what we've got for statuses today. There are some other functions you can do, especially if you were looking to integrations. The status column becomes really useful as a trigger for integrations. Thanks for watching today. Hope this was helpful. Like and subscribe. I appreciate it, and see you in the next one.